everyone. I'll share now my screen. I'm very happy to be part of you today. Do you see my screen?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, good. So today I have a presentation about STEAM in school curriculum, challenges to adapt STEAM in schools, because before curriculum, STEAM needs to change people's mind. Yeah, so it has a lot of problems and challenges while implementation. So it's widely spread that STEAM education in modern schooling is crucial because of it promotes interdisciplinary learning, prepares students for future careers, increases engagement and motivation, and so on and so on. But after 20, more than 20 years, it is a challenge, and it has a lot of question marks about how to implement informal education, how to make it part of the school, because in case of STEAM clubs, it has more successes than to put STEAM and integrate STEAM in the curriculum. Yeah. So there are needs organization like school needs to follow to have like successful STEAM education. And first of all, it's based on the researches. People say that for STEAM education, even researchers, for STEAM, successful STEAM education, infrastructure and resources are important. What does it mean? We always say that the good facility has essential role in effective STEAM education. And also for hands-on activities, it's crucial to have some materials, and it's not always mean that you should have something like high tech, but still even though it's not high tech, for example, second-hand materials or materials which you can reuse, still you need to provide them. So you should have it in school, and it doesn't make sense who will take it in school, like administration, parents, children themselves, or teacher. So another what affects on the STEAM education, it's curriculum and assessment. So, for example, when I introduced STEAM education to the teachers, they always claim that, okay, it's very good approach, but still we have something from the government, from the Ministry of Education we should follow. So I don't have time to put it in our curriculum. So sometimes I think they are, of course, they are very busy and they don't have time, but sometimes they can't understand that this professional development needs time, and for cultural and systemic changes, if we talk about it, it means that administration on any level, parents, they should know what is STEAM education and have to promote it, how to promote STEM professions. And inclusivity and accessibility, what does it mean? We know that the learning and teaching process should be oriented on each person, but when you have the mixed, very complex approach like STEAM education, it's very crucial to make it oriented on each student. Like, for example, in our private schools, we have approximately 20 students, so we should take into account all the students' needs and abilities, and one of the services of the startup company, which I introduced also, and I'm a co-founder, we help schools with implementation of STEAM informal education. And today I'm going to introduce a case study of our experience. It was for one of the private schools of Georgia, from the capital city, Tbilisi. We suggested to school to have pilot mandatory subject like mathematics or history once per week. And it was oriented from preschoolers to sixth graders. And for implementation before curriculum, you should know from where you start. So you from successful curriculum, even if you have the materials, scenarios, everything, you need the space where you implement everything. Yeah. So after proposing the model for the STEAM laboratory, even though the school has a very good science laboratories like physics, chemistry, biology, they found a space for STEAM laboratory, so they funded it, and by September we will have the full equipped STEAM lab. And as you see, sometimes it's very expensive for every school to have them. And to talk about the curriculum and assessment, what we did, we have created a comprehensive STEAM program that aligns with the national curriculum standards in science, ICT, and mathematics for elementary school students. And program is implemented with the learning scenarios. So each activity has its own, and it depends on how strong, let's say, the activity is, because sometimes it takes one lesson, sometimes two or more. And I want to underline that each activity has the influence, and we integrate all these STEAM disciplines, and we don't integrate only two or more than two. We include all the disciplines. So, and also we use formative assessment method. We send to each parent and also student the evaluation, how is going on for each student, and what to improve. And our program is divided into 4 parts. Of course, they have some elements from each of them, but still they are divided and oriented on different skills. For example, from preschoolers to 3rd graders, we are strengthening the interdisciplinary connections and motor skills. For 4th graders, we suggest the technical. We want to improve technical abilities to them by using BBC micro:bit. After these technical abilities, let's say for 5th graders, we have a special project with Lego like bricks and robots, and afterwards 6th graders, they are introduced with entrepreneurship, and they learn how to convert those skills and abilities to the project, and maybe sometimes they have the startup ideas, let's say, and sometimes they just say that if I do this project for myself, for my room or house, it would be good for my family. And I talked about cultural and systemic changes, and of course it's very difficult to teach students some skills which they did not understand. They did not know about, like engineering and stuff like this, but it's very important to change or to teach society what is STEAM, because sometimes, even though we implement this program for 1 year, and I want to say that before our program, this school had the robotics club, and sometimes we still hear the phrase, children, now you have robotics, from the classroom supervisor. So still they say that it's robotics, not STEM. Oh, sorry. And also for teachers, we have training module for STEAM educational lesson teachers. So this subject we call STEAM education. We give 1 meeting for each sub-program per week. It's crucial to approach each teacher individually, because many of them perceive STEAM education as assembling robots only, or when children using screwdrivers, for example, teachers associate it with vocational training. And sometimes we hear from them they do not have developed motor skills, which is why it is too early to start such activities. So then we ask them, so what is the age they should start to do some STEAM activities? And to have the good STEAM program at school, it's important to realize, to make parents understand that it's important. So it's why we conduct workshops and trainings to them, also separately, individually for parents only, or parents and children together, to make them known what is the positive effect of this team program. And if we also have this research, conducting researches, and for example, we sometimes read this kind of phrases. Now he pays more attention to events and observes closely. So, for example, during the learning process at home, tries to independently draw parallels between the learned materials. So after the programs, we can say that students are trying to make the connections of the materials they learned from the different subjects. And also they are trying to have this kind of STEM kits at home. And if you want to read the more results about our research and program, please visit the site. And to conclude, inclusivity and accessibility, each STEAM program should be based on the following principles, like promoting equal opportunities. Is important to designing STEAM programs that cater to diverse learning needs. Those programs should be adaptive for everyone. Yeah, that was what I want to share with you. Thank you for attention. If you have any question, please reach out.
Thank you, Medea. Any question from the participants? I think there were many topics for possible discussion, and at least to compare the situation in your country, or for your experience, if you had similar cases, for example, for the reaction from the school leaders, or from some stereotypes that still are provided when talking about STEAM education, or young people and STEAM education in school.
If there are no questions, I have one, if I can, Medea. This, I mean, this is clearly a success story with a lot of reflections and a thing well done, let's say. So my question would be, what was the starting point? How was it, and the driving force? You know, typically in these stories, you have one person or a group of persons within the school that pushes, and some lessons learned for people who might want to do something similar. So what was the secret there?
You mean before implementing or after implementing? Because it is, you mean, you know, it's private school, so it came from the administration because they wanted to have strong STEAM program. But afterwards, we had experience, like first of all, teachers were not motivated, but after one semester, we had a lot of like class supervisors. I don't know in English, but the persons who are not teaching but take care of the process. So even though they were not teachers, because they are young, they are more motivated. They wanted to try something new. So it is, if I understood your question. If not, we can clarify.
The first push came from the school administration. So there was, okay. Good. I don't know if there are other questions about this, especially the reflection on inclusion. I think it's very important. It's something that we try to push in the club. This idea of trying to work with what we have and to be as inclusive as possible. No more questions. Everything was clear.
Well, there's lots of topics, as I agreed with Roberto, to think about and to reflect on. So I liked Medea's approach. There is a private company, but there is a researcher in it, so they do it in right way. So there are many Lego clubs, I would say, privately operating, at least in the capital city, and offering just regular Lego robotics and just assembling without much of inquiry. So, and all the blocks are mostly similar, and all the projects, well, if not similar, they are repeating at least. So I think that in this case, innovation and creativity is promoted, but not to the level which leads to like real science and science inquiry and so on. And Media's company is trying to integrate it more, and it's a good example. It is a case by itself. And so my point is that it's good that there is a researcher within the team, which is a very rare case, especially in Georgia and I guess in other countries.
Yeah, very good point. Absolutely. Okay, so Robbie, if we have no more questions, we can move to the interactive part, no?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, should we take over and share the screen?
Yes, if I can shortly introduce
Yes.
what is happening now. First of all, we would like your participation because we would like to share with you the ideas and possible criteria for the ideation of the final output. So even since this is the third meeting of the club, I think we thought it's time to start drafting and framing the final output. That should be something very practical, easy to use, user-friendly, and most of all, helpful for all the teachers and educators. So we started from a first set of possible areas or scenarios. Fabio, do you prefer that I share the screen? Do you want it to do?
Yeah, maybe if you share it is better. So just do it, yes.
Okay.
So what we will present to you now is the result of the first meeting we had, where we worked on the main challenges of educators working in STEAM subject that want to introduce new ways of running STEAM classes, want to do it in a more inclusive way, like Medea was saying, in a more integrated way, in a more interdisciplinary way, engaging way, and so on. So innovative ways to use one word. And then in the second meeting, we heard about some practices, so some real teaching practices, and each practice was corresponding to one or more scenario, let's say, one let's say area of work, a scenario in a very broad sense. And so we decided, then we agreed, we discussed what would have been useful for newcomers, especially for those people who are not teaching with STEAM in innovative ways, but maybe they are math teachers using some technology, or they are, let's say, typically the people that are not familiar with the concept of STEAM and with the first slide that Medea showed, how all the many things that can happen if you introduce STEAM properly in a classroom or in a school. And so basically we decided to create this table, this canvas that now you see in an Excel format, but of course the final outcome will be a nicer guidebook or a nicer poster or something a bit more attractive, where basically we, in the first column, we identified 7 STEAM scenarios that are just our starting point, and we would like them to discuss them with you. And then for every STEAM scenario, we will have, the idea is to have one teaching practice, so at least one or more case of one educator implementing inquiry-based learning STEAM, some guidelines and courses, not only the link. Here are just some links that we put there as examples, but links digested for educators like you. So we should do a bit of editing there, and some digital tools, or some not necessarily digital, but some tools that that educators can use and hopefully translate in case of need, and so on. So that is the logic. So we have 7 scenarios that we will now briefly present to you, and then the 3 levels: the practices, the guidelines, and the practical tools. Now I will ask Merab maybe to go through the scenarios. Merab has a lot of experience in STEAM, much more than me, so you can maybe explain them very briefly. And then what we would like to do today in the time we have is, first of all, to comment in general on this result. This could be the structure of the outcome of our work. So first of all, we would like to know if you agree, if you think that this would be useful as a canvas, as a starting point for newcomers or for non-expert teachers, number 1. Number 2 is if you think that the scenarios cover more or less what was discussed in the past, and what are the typical problems so connected that can be solved through STEAM, so you see them in brackets. And third is if you feel particularly connected to one of these scenarios, so that you can already volunteer to contribute to that part of the work. This is not going to be a PhD dissertation. It's going to be something very short, very simple. We will have people taking care of the communication side and of the layout. We just need some educators who can put in some practice or some tools that you're using, and so on and so forth. I remember, for example, the tools that Selçuk was presenting in the last webinar. He was presenting Microbit and the different tools he's using. Okay, when it comes to digital technology, we can surely put it there, connected to the practice, so we cover more or less all the areas. And in case for some scenario or we don't find specific guidelines or specific tools, okay, we can then activate, get active, and maybe develop some of them, taking information from the practices. Okay, so Merab, would you mind briefly presenting the scenarios to see if they are convincing?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first one, inquiry-based learning, it's not very new. It exists for quite some time there in STEM and science education. And I guess it's closest to the science methodology introduction at the school level, I guess. So this circle, which we have it in the example link there, it gives that it's basically on the question, right? Product questions, scientific questions, or questions related to the nature, how things work, and so on. Then there are some ideas and hypotheses as in the real scientific process, and some experimentation. Then observations, analytical work, and documenting the results all the time. And also, I would say in my practice, it's also connected to science fairs and contests, which are also conducted, and sometimes Olympiads. But in the Olympiad, so there are often some given tasks and given problems that need to be solved, and there's often some well, it's also typical in the classroom in certain cases when they teach normal physics or other subjects. But again, it's the question-based and inquiry-based. So, and it's as I mentioned, it is connected to the experimentation done during the open science contests. I would say more than during the Olympiads. It's a more or less established track. We and Georgia have 2 large national contexts typical to that require some innovative skills and problem solving from the participants, but also there are some smaller scale initiatives and teachers are free to experiment and do these experiments. It's also part of the curriculum, definitely a certain number of experiments. Why is it interesting and important? Because people in general mostly like to do some hands-on experience rather than theoretization, especially the kids. And finding the answers to the real questions again somehow motivates them more than probably learning from the textbook and doing things on their way, or again recording the experiments. It's a simple task, but still it also creates a habit of some kind of systemic work and some scientific work. Also, sometimes it's connected to everyday experiences and issues that they face and finds connection. I think that Finnish education is based on this phenomena. Finnish education is also close to this inquiry-based learning. I think we'll have the opportunity to find good examples and present them here as well. So my point, like cross-cutting to the present webinar issue, is how to make it really a little bit more massive. Definitely infrastructure is needed. But again, I also was involved in some of the simple science experiments when they're trying to attract attract young people to these STEAM subjects by really very cheap or simple experiments that you can do with just paper, plastic bottle, water, and so on. So there are many practices again in this case, and so-called science picnics are often, or science shows on stage are delivering them. It's a little bit more on the informal side than on the formal side, so it would be good to see if there is a good connection to the school practices. This is about the first one. Shall we continue, or we can stop and listen to the questions or comments?
I don't know if you have, if there are questions or specific also comments on the way this, the way we structure this. So if you have comments or you believe that some points should be further explained, feel free. This should be a club result, so it should be produced by all of us in theory. Or you feel free. Yeah.
Take into consideration that we are now working together. So this would be the final output of our club, and it will be the product of joint collaboration by all the participants. And as much as you participate in this activity, of course, you could be part of the network and get the final badge, not last but not least. And for example, one question could be, do you feel close to one of these so-called scenarios? How is your experience related to these areas that we are presenting now? So do you think it makes sense and is consistent with your own experience, with your own competencies also?
I don't know, we can maybe go on and
okay.
yeah, and then get feel free also to use the chat. It's yeah, I mean, this is the first time you see it, so it's normal that maybe you have not immediate reactions, but feel free to comment one way or another.
Okay. So then there is a project-based learning. Again, it's a wider approach than STEAM education per se, but it's very good for STEAM subjects specifically. I remember Intel had a very good course that is familiar for Georgian teachers. We implemented it 15 years ago, but then it has been stopped. It has a nice curriculum for how to create a science, well, not only science, but general IT or STEM or science project in the school contexts. So there was a methodology of getting more and more connections to either curriculum or 21st century skills and so on. And I think all of the teachers present here are mostly familiar with this project-based learning approach. The problem with it that it's often doesn't fit, as Medea mentioned, doesn't fit really the requirements of the formal education and the curriculum, and it's difficult to establish the models that both are project-based, more motivating and interesting for teachers and students, but also fits the curriculum or requirements of the formal education. So this could be the task to find the good examples of doing it. So the project is a vague definition. It could be rarely one lesson, but could be like during a semester or during a month or during a year project and so on. And we all have experiences with that. And it should be well connected maybe to the curriculum goals. Then it's widely accepted. You need some resources mostly for those projects, and there are different ways to acquire them. Again, it could be also simple or too difficult, or it could be connected to some activities that are mentioned also in the other parts. Then solving real-world problems, and that also enhances motivation and interest. I already mentioned this Finnish educational model that is connecting really the school experiences, the school education experiences to the experiences of the students that are not connected to the formal schooling, and then it could be very innovative. I think it's you don't limit your innovation here in fantasy what you can connect, but again it's sometimes also connected to this inquiry based, and then you have real world problem, but it could be also either socioeconomic problem. For example, in the community it's easier to connect than these problems, and the methodology approach sometimes is just finding the problems in the community, whether it's environmental or related to some other economic developments, and then finding solutions to them and finding solutions within the specific subject or within the broader STEAM area. So we arrive then here to this integration of STEAM across the curriculum, which I personally like the most because there is this mentioning of A and arts also, and it could be somehow formalized, like we had good examples of applying arts to different STEM subjects, or a microphone needs to be muted. And then also here in this STEAM across the curriculum point, you can find again some influence of science to arts, and now it's boosted by the artificial intelligence, of course, but still it was present even before that there are some processes, some visualizations from the science world that could be considered as arts. And also this cross-fertilization of subjects is often does often resonate with this whole idea, holistic idea of a STEM education, not dividing by subjects. I remember when I was in the school, we learned atom in chemistry and we learned atom in physics, but it's all the same atom. It's a natural phenomena and building blocks. So it's I think it's a good point to see that these divisions sometimes by subjects are artificial, and introduce this topic and holistic approach why STEAM is becoming popular, that the nature often doesn't have these divisions, and then they are just invented by us, by humans, and it goes to this larger and higher level philosophy maybe. So then there is equipping teachers, which is again interesting and large subject, how to empower teachers really to be good motivators and good advocates for STEAM education. And I think this recognition should be also considered here. Maybe there are good examples. We had also in this club research that whenever teachers are motivated in the schools, they are not on one STEAM club, but there could be several STEAM clubs. So it depends, of course, on teachers' motivation and teachers' energy. But again, how to make it really systemic, how to provide really good examples for many teachers to follow, or again to open up to these STEAM subjects and not be limited by the subject they teach normally. There is a challenge definitely, and we'll try to find some good examples here, or maybe someone will volunteer for that. and provide these examples or volunteer for searching these cases. And the use of digital technology as enabler, it's also close to my work. Digital technology, even before AI, was considered as enabler of many things to happen. As we're having the Zoom webinar, we use technology every day, computers are everywhere. It was not the case 30 years ago, and the development is quite fast now. We have data science and this data science based AI. So the digital technology will be even more present and in supporting high quality teaching and learning and accelerating. I think we can find good examples also here. Some could be experimental, some could be well established. It's also connected to some challenges with infrastructure needs for that, but it's becoming more massive with universal mobile device accessibility. So it could be again simple methodology when the mobile devices are used properly for the education needs or any other case. I think we'll have some examples here. And this same for the 21st century skills, as again, there are many frameworks established based on this concept of 21st century skills, and in all these documents and then also literature and observations and cases, you would find that yes, STEAM fosters critical thinking, definitely creativity, innovation, but it also communication and collaboration, because with the first scenario and some others also, it's connected to the science around us and to the observation scientific method. And science in 21st century is by default, I guess, with very rare exceptions, is a collective and group work, and based on collaboration of really large number of people. It's no longer one genius that could create and overturn all the rules. And again, it leads students and teachers to some conclusions, major conclusions that, yeah, this creativity and group work and task delegation and rearrangement in the group, it's very important. So I think by default, this STEM education is designed in a way to contribute to this 21st century skills. And I think we can find many examples for this direction as well.
Okay, thank you. This was a let's say a very deep, but at the same time very broad analysis, or at least the description of the themes. And we got some questions in the chat. So Zebo is asking if the idea is to select one topic or to work on several of them, and the idea is to work on all of them in a very light way. So ideally, for each one of them, we should be able to provide some teaching practices also taken from your work. Of course, we will start by analyzing what you wrote in the expression of interest, and we will link it there, some guidelines and some tools. And of course, if we find then when you will be working on the table, feel free also to add comments or to comment, to suggest, for example, merging or new areas. Feel free to do that. And then Hedia was asking if if the idea is also to apply scenarios already, maybe even next year. Of course, if you are able already to test them or to test some of these in your teaching, it would be even better, because the idea is to put all of these in practice as soon as possible. But for the moment, the objective is to fill this table with our experiences, with what we know, with what you know, and then to share it as a meta set of instruction and a set of inspiring ideas for STEAM teachers who might not have thought about these things, about interdisciplinarity, curriculum integration, inclusion, low technology, and all these different keywords that will appear in the table. I don't know, Zebo and the others, if I got your questions right, but in the meantime, feel free to keep on commenting and to take the floor. I see some of you, for example, Zebo, did I reply right to your question?
Actually, yes, I was thinking about what kind of approach we can use. Actually, when we had such kind of experience, everyone in a group used to have like concrete roles, and we were working on not so many topics, but mostly selected one, and I think so it depends what kind of deliverables we want to have. Will it be like as you said, as they said, the lesson plan, or a lesson scenario using teaching practices, which is connected with providing STEAM education or something like that. And I think it's important to have clear instructions in order to avoid any misunderstandings. So, for me, for example, I think that all scenarios are very fascinating. So, and I would love to work on uh, on the topic how to solve real life problems and the 21st century in a connection with STEAM. But at the same time, I have numerous questions in my mind. For example, how I can make alignment with educational goals, and how in my opinion, all these topics should help development of students as well as should lead to professional development for educators as well. So, and the next question which I have in my mind is so how can we like support teachers in developing interdisciplinary teaching strategies? So like this. And but anyway, I think maybe I'm too strict, but I would love to have some clear instructions or clear my role in this developing process. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're right. It's we are in the phase of chaotic creation, so don't worry if things are not fully clear. Actually, you already identified a few areas that where you feel more interested, real world problems and 21st century skills. So what would be requested from you there is to search among your communities, in your work, in your school, with your colleagues, and on the web as well, for tools, approaches, courses that can fit there, that can serve as examples for others. Now, this can be a complete curriculum, for example. This can be a set of guidelines. This can be a tool like a Canvas, or even a digital tool that some of you might be using in the classroom. I know, Medea, you have plenty of toys and tools, for example, that can be used. And of course, always keeping in mind the issue of inclusion and of smart technology. So the fact that this should be not a barrier in terms of cost and digital competence, but actually an enabler. And then you should, ideally, we should have, I think, for each one of these lines, so one or two people who suggest to help us in searching and in contributing, which doesn't mean that you have to complete the whole line or the whole lines, but you should help us in searching for interesting things, and not only in English, not only from the typical American university or American school. In our search, we found a lot of things from the US, a lot of nicely packaged things, but we have the luxury of this group is led by Georgian experts. We have many Georgian here in the room, but also others. Zebo, you're from Uzbekistan, and so the reality is very different. I think this is a richness, because if you look at, so I think we should really find original approaches, which does not have to be super innovative. Again, the innovation stands in the first line, then the rest can be as normal as possible. But I think it is important to come up with original things coming from your context, either by you or by a colleague you know, or by a professor that you have read about, or by a good textbook that could be used. Just put it there with a specific approach. So in order for not for everybody to work on everything, I think it would be important for you to select one of the areas. Hedia was saying before that maybe it's too early now to select because you've just seen it, so we can do it also after this webinar. We can we can send you this, and you can put your name. We can add a column, and you can put your name in the area or the areas where you feel more comfortable. And maybe I was thinking, I'm looking now at Roberto's, we could try to fill before sending the homework one line so that we show what we have in mind. So it's not about writing a lot, it's mostly about links and things that then can be elaborated by the team after the summer break. So during the summer break is the search phase. So search for interesting bottom-up practices, guidelines, and tools coming especially from your countries and contexts. And then after the summer break, there will be let's say a curation moment where we will work together to make this usable and digestible for other professors.
Fabio, if I can add something. So the table is something or kind of attempt to organize what we have, because we see that with all the members of the club, we have many resources. So actually it was a kind of how to organize now the resources and how to organize the final output. So I think, like you said before, we can try to identify the practices that we have, because the people who registered in the club already propose many things. So we can try to make this match, give some examples to the members, because I can understand, Zebo, that maybe seeing all this, the whole table seems quite difficult maybe to do. But of course we don't have to fill in the whole table. So this is we will see what we are able to do. So don't get scared about this. So this is my message.
Yeah. Zebo, please.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you so much for clarification. And I have one last question before giving the floor for others as well. So my question is, I was wondering about quality of the provided materials. So, and yeah, thank you that you are providing such a big area for creativity. But my question is, will you accept everything we will write? For example, we can put 2 phrases, 2 sentences, and will it be acceptable? And what is criteria to to be selected to the final stage, be not winner, but be confident that your idea will be accepted for the final product as a final product. So what kind of criteria will you use, or there is no criteria and it's like ice-breaking process?
No, for the moment, let's say we don't have specific criteria. For the moment, we just want to collect ideas, and any contribution, any substantial contribution will be rewarded with the open badge and by being recognized as the authors of this. Of course, feel free, if you have a link with a brief description, just put it there. If you have a few sentences or a reflection, just put it there. That for the moment we decided to keep it free, because some people, there is something that you might be using already. And then, of course, we will have at a certain point a moment of, let's say, curation, where we will try to make things compatible. And this will be done together with everybody interested, but especially with the people who will candidate. So if you find that in one of these lines, in one of these areas, you have experience or you have a particular interest, feel free when we will send the table to say, okay, I candidate with others, of course, for the problem-based learning, because it is an approach that I'm using and I have experience. Even if you think that you are doing nothing specific, innovative, that doesn't matter. Important thing is that you have experience in that specific approach, and then we have still a few months to carve out the final result. But the important thing now is to get as many ideas as possible, even the craziest idea, even things that don't exist. So of course we base ourselves on practices, but if there is something that you would like to do, but you know, you never made it, or it's just the famous project that you have never received funding for, okay, just put it there and we'll see how to deal with it. I don't know if this looks
Thank you.
please.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mattia,
Yeah.
I saw you appeared in the screen. I don't know if you want to comment something.
Actually, I have some ideas to add to the table, but I need more thinking on it.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, yeah,
But I think that it's normal in each brainstorming to have a phase of discovery, and after to a moment where to have conclusions. No?
yeah, exactly. We are now in the creative chaos. We structured what we could, but now, of course, and we have all the expressions of interest also of other people that cannot be here today, who told us what they did. So we will then try to combine them with the different lines, so to make sure that any innovator can contribute to where they do some work. But that's yeah, that's exactly the idea, and we don't have to do it now. We have actually, I would say, the whole summer now. Roberto is in charge of the timing of the club, but I think since the next meeting will be beginning of September, I think we have even more than 2 months to do this work. We will communicate by email in the meantime, but we will not bother you during summer break. But that's the moment where you can find some time to write something there. And here there is a comment by Gulkan. I will report and present the 2BTAC project we did with the students. For this, I will use the topics in Excel and report on our project about renewable energy. Yes, actually, STEAM for green and STEAM for sustainability is also an area that was appearing quite a lot. I remember also, Zebo, you had it in a proposal in the past. So feel free also that we decided to use an Excel specifically for this. If you want to add or to propose a new area, if two of you would like, for example, to explore STEAM for sustainability, for example, which is an interesting area, feel free to add it now. And we have full trust in you that you will not delete anything. So feel free to propose it, and it will come to life on its own. Thank you, Gulkan. Okay, more comments?
First, Zebo was wondering about the characteristics of the final outcome. Of course, as Fabio was saying before, we are still in the phase of creation, so we have many ideas. Not all the ideas are definitive, but they are still just suggestions. But I think it can help if we start imagining, for example, a web page basically on our open space. From this page, you will have, of course, a clear structure. So there will be some introduction. We think it's very important to give some hints, suggestions, recommendations on how schools can create and frame a vision, a strategy for integrating STEAM in their curricula. Then we will have the practices, we will have the scenarios, and we want to link one and to match one with the others. And we started from the Excel file because we thought that it would be easy for you to write, to put notes, and so on. But then, of course, all of this work will be finally edited in a nice way in order to be appealing for all the users, of course. And the other topic, the other aspects we thought about would be also some short videos. We thought that possible presentation, very short presentation of skills or scenarios that can be connected with those that we just presented in the Excel file could be interesting. So just to give you an example, for Zebo, you thought that you could say something interesting about the development of 21st century skills, I don't know, critical thinking, then you can dedicate 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, I mean, very short video to tell something about this topic. So that at the end we will have, let's say, 7 short videos that could be, of course, visible on our webpage that can further help teachers and educators to capture the meaning of what we say, more than words, more than images, more than text. More or less, this is I tried to sum up some of our internal meeting ideas. Hope it's clear, but hope to not to create confusion, but provide you with some more clear vision about the final outcome.
Yeah. And then last point is that we are connected, as you know, with Scientix, with the large European network on STEM and STEAM that is looking forward to receiving our outcome. And also we are connected with the STEM Women Congress, which is a congress happening in Barcelona in November, where we will present this result. So we are already preparing some places where this can be shared and ideally can be used also as a way to attract interest for our work. So that's basically it. Okay, so I think what we will do is to send a detailed homework with a link to the table, and then we will go back to the ones of you who individually who have submitted an expression of interest connected to some of the areas, which I think will be most of them, so to make sure that nothing gets lost. And then I think before the end of July, so before really closing or going on holiday, we will have a check on where you are with your contribution. The important thing is that I think is that you candidate for the area where you feel more expert, or you think you have something to say. And then if for any reason you cannot make it, don't worry. This is all voluntary work. Is not an issue of you're not obliged to contribute to anything. So next online meeting will be at the beginning of September, so in a couple of months. But during July, we will have at least 1 or 2 checks with you and with the other members of the club to be sure that you are, number 1, confirming that the structure that you agree with the structure, adding things. Number 2, candidating for some of the areas where to contribute, or more than one. And number 3, add something in the form you like. It can be a link, it can be a link to a document, it can be a picture, it can be anything, a video of your work. And then after the summer, we'll try to curate this. We also we'll have some support from the ETF digital communication team, so that should not be a problem. Merab.
You have a more technical suggestion. There were some questions in the beginning that there is no Georgian translation and there are many Georgian participants. So I think me and Medea can volunteer for any Georgian participants to address us in Georgian and make their inputs in Georgian. We'll translate or help at least them to make those, because sometimes some are a little bit shy with the language skills, and we don't want to lose anything. In this case, I think you can find us either me or Medea somewhere on some platform in general, or through this. Okay, that's six. We don't need the 6 people in between of us. Maybe some 1 or 2 in Facebook or somewhere in social media. To find, I can also provide my email here if you wish, which would be simpler. And similarly, I guess, to the other countries participating, if you know some really good example educator who doesn't speak English and can do it in own language or another language, and then we can still use this practice if it's really very good. So I do have this experience with many Georgian educators that are limiting themselves to, I'm all at least reluctant to participate because of this language barrier.
It's a very good point, actually. It would be good to have that, I mean, multilingual as well, and through we can have versions in both English and Georgian in this case, or other languages. And by the way, I take the chance to see Zebo here. We have some developments also of a new learning club for Russian-speaking participants. So we also have some developments on the Russian field. So the community is getting more and more multilingual, and that's very good. So thank you, Merab, for the support, and it's a very good point, yes. Good. I think we are on time, and I think we did everything we had to do. I don't know if there are some more housekeeping things, Roberto, I think, and Marta. I think we are in line with the expectations, right?
We are absolutely in line with expectations. Of course, we repeat once again, this is an informal club. It's an informal community of friends and colleagues who share common interests and subjects. So really feel free to raise your hand, to say something, to give your inputs. Now, when you have the opportunity also to talk, but of course, if you need some time to digest what we have explained today, no problem. We will provide you with some instructions with the so-called summer homework so that you can see where and how you can contribute. And please volunteer for this, because we strongly need your help. Also for the idea of the videos, if you think that you can explain in a very short time your experience related to one of the scenarios, this would be much, much welcome. And yeah, I think that's all for today.
Good. So thank you very much for your time and for being here, and enjoy the summer break, and let's be in touch during July by mail, and then in September with the next webinar, where we hope to have that table bigger and more complete, so that then we can start maybe having some presentations by the volunteers, and I can identify a few further leaders of this work that then can bring the work forward. Thank you very much, and have a great summer, and speak soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.